What legacy will you leave behind? How would you like to remember and think about that job or your career? How do you want to remember it? Plus also, how do you want others to remember you? I'll explain a bit more about some of the conversations I've been having recently, but it actually goes back to when I read this wonderful book called Legacy. It's by James Kerr and it's about the New Zealand rugby team. And there's a player at the time called Dan Carter, which you may have heard of. He was rather good at rugby in New Zealand. But at the time when they had this most amazing All Black team, they had this brilliant concept about leaving the shirt in the better place than when you received it. What it means is when you start your international career and whatever number shirt that you've got to up the level of performance, the level of commitment. You've got to leave the shirt in a better place. So if you've got a career of say 9, 10, 11, 12 years, you're upping the game. And it's a great way to think about it. So what will you leave? What will you leave your job, your team, the department, the business? Will you leave them all in a better place than when you actually started that role? It doesn't matter if you've got a technical expert's job or you're a manager or a leader, it's the same concept. If you're in a business with processes and part of a team, your position in that team, are you going to be leaving it in a better place? I bet it's a question we haven't asked ourselves, and it should become one that we do think about on a more regular basis. So as I said, the book inspired me, but also I'm having quite a lot of conversations when I do my future-proofing yourself coaching sessions with people who've perhaps say 5, 10 or 15 years to go in their careers. And they're perhaps sort of bumbling along a little bit, perhaps not quite as motivated as they were in the earlier parts of their careers. So we start talking about legacy. How do you want to feel when you've finished your job and your career? What do you want to look back and remember? And also, how would you like people to remember you? But I think this applies to all aspects of our work, as I said earlier, whatever your job is. But certainly if you're a manager or a leader, or especially if you run a company or a big part of it, what's your legacy? What are you leaving behind? A good place to start is to spend some thinking, reflection time. If you think of the vision of your legacy, what would you like to leave behind? And it will currently help you to make the right decisions in the future on your behaviour, your decisions, and how you treat people, and where you demonstrate your time and efforts, so they can remember you and you can remember them in good ways. So what you do now will impact your legacy when you actually finish, be it, as I said, retirement, moving on to a new job or a new position or promotion. Start thinking of your legacy. Now, there's a lovely quote here that I'm going to share with you from a friend of mine called Graham Norris. I can't say that I came up with it. Who you are today is a result of the decisions you made in the past. All decisions you make today, even the ones that you passively make with your inaction, have an impact on your future. And when he told me about this idea, perhaps 18 months ago, I thought it's a really good way to start thinking. And that's what I've linked in to this legacy conversation. And start thinking about the decisions and what I've done in the past, but also what I now do from now on is going to impact my future and the legacy that I leave behind. So here's some questions to ask yourself. How do you want to remember your career when you look back? How do you want people to remember you and your time working with you? What culture do you want to leave behind you if you still got the opportunity to influence it? What succession planning do you need to implement so people think inspired and motivated to follow in your footsteps? What do you need to do to let go? How do you need to go about empowering your people? There again, so they're going to think, yeah, they gave me the opportunity. What do you need to achieve in terms of results, in terms of recognition? Yeah, how can I inspire and motivate others? How can I be remembered as a blooming good person? Which I think is always a good way to be. There's just a couple of questions you might like to think about. Okay, and then if we go back to that quote that we talked about from Graham Norris, who you are today is a result of the decisions you made in the past. So where you are now, you have a legacy. All the decisions and actions you do today, even those ones you make passively, with your inaction, in other words, not doing things, have an impact on your future. So now's the time to grab it, make some changes, and think about your legacy. Enjoy the journey.